Hey, how are you? This is essay number 2, Adult's House essay number 2. It is the year 2022 KCSE. And of course, again, I just want to say that these are still projections or our predictions, and they're based on the past experiences that we've had with the past papers, and and also possible sample responses on how the examiners would expect you to respond. So therefore, without wasting time, let's get into it. Essay 2. Things are not always as they seem. I write a composition based on a doll's house to validate this assertion. Things are not always as they seem. Write a composition based on a doll's house to validate this assertion. This is our intro down there. We live in a world of illusions, where that you see is not exactly what you get. Truly, all that glitters is not gold. Nora's marriage to Torvald seems like a perfect, happy marriage, but it turns out to be a suffocating prison for Nora. First, Nora seems like a silly, childish woman that is extravagant, hardly self-reliant, and only good for housekeeping. However, her actions prove that she is wise, mature, and strong-willed. Her husband refers to her as a little squirrel, a little spendthrift. Torvald overworks himself and falls dreadfully ill. She borrows a loan of £250 when her husband falls sick in order to facilitate a year-long vacation in Italy for him to get some rest as recommended by the doctors. She does needlework and crocheting to pay off the loan herself. She also saves the money she gets from her husband so that she is not a spendthrift after all. This is great sacrifice. When her husband rebukes her for borrowing the money, she leaves him. This shows her strong will and independence. It turns out that she was never happy after all. Indeed, things are not as always as they seem. And in the second case, we also have Torvald, who seems like a loving, strong, benevolent husband. Later we realize that he is petty, selfish, and cowardly. He is a vain man who only cares about his reputation and what others think of him. The reason he gives for wanting to dismiss Krogstad is that he assumes an overly familiar tone with him when others are around. Even his wife finds this narrow-minded. He is too weak to deliver the promise to risk his life's blood and everything for Nora's sake. When he gets wind of Krogstad's impending blackmail, he calls Nora a criminal and a miserable creature and forbids her from raising the children. He is fearful of being exposed. All that glitters is indeed not gold. At first, Krogstad seems to be a bitter, vengeful extortionist, but we later realize that he is merciful and sympathetic. Nora borrows a loan of £250 from him and forges her father's signature in the process. Torvald Helmer plans to dismiss Krogstad from his position at the bank after he is made manager. Krogstad is forced to blackmail Nora in order to keep his job and clean his reputation. He writes a letter to Torvald with the details of his secret transactions with Nora. He does all this for his 2 sons. When he gets reunited with Mrs. Linde, his old flame, he sends Nora Bone back, revealing his massive fight. Krogstad is an earnest lover, and indeed, things are not as always as they seem. Dr. Rank is introduced to us as a very good friend to the Helmers. Nora says that he is Torvald's best friend. He visits them daily. Little did you know that he is secretly attracted to his best friend's wife. He even confesses this to her. His true motive for the daily visit is his love for Nora. Lastly, the Helmers' marriage appears loving, but it is not. It is full of lies, pretense, play acting, and an unequal relationship. At first, Torvald seems like an affectionate, caring husband, calling her pet names and giving her money, and Nora appears happy, flirting with him and playing with the children. Cracks appear when we come to know of the deception. She lies about trivial things like eating macarons to serious stuff like borrowing a loan without her husband's knowledge. She says she got the money from her father. Torvald is also seen as a selfish man who does not love Nora but who only cares about public reputation. Nora acts childishly but hides her true nature from her husband. Eventually, she's forced to leave Torvald. She says that she was not happy at all. Surely, things are not always as they seem. Now, good students, this also marks the end of this particular tiny little episode. But of course, I want to say that it never goes unrewarded. The tiny little things that you do, they add up. One more thing, subscribe. You know, when you subscribe, you're supporting me, you're backing me up in a way. And number two, what you're doing to yourself is that you'd want to stay hooked for the future updates. Therefore, subscribe because it's good for me as it is good for you. Cheers for now.